this is you/JFMV763 Mitchell, and we're back for another episode of the Libertarian Uncensored podcast. Not too much new content on the subreddit today, just over a page, just under a page, so we'll get right on it. The first thing we have is why are we so afraid of nuclear power? It's greener than renewables and safer than fossil fuels, but facts be damned. From Mother Jones by Muv Hugging Inc. And yeah, I agree with that. I feel that there's this real push to get rid of nuclear power. I think Germany just turned off all its nuclear power plants, and that's probably not going to be good for its energy. Might not be a good winter for them in particular, but we'll see how that goes. I used to really be really against nuclear power because The Simpsons always kind of played it bad, but it's that stuff like The Simpsons. That's kind of just like anti-nuclear propaganda. We just see a lot of anti-nuclear propaganda, and it's important to remember that. When if it does get like a meltdown, that's gonna be bad, like 3 Mile Island. But other than that, hopefully that doesn't happen, and I do think it's effective as long as that doesn't happen. It's not too likely to happen, I would say. So what do we have next? Happy birthday, comrade Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov. Thank you for your tireless work by Chi-Town 20. That's a cross blows from r/socialism. And I said that's probably one of Chi-Town's favorite libertarians up there with Marx, Stalin, and Mao. I remember my advisor in college had a picture of Lenin in her office. I went to a relatively conservative university as well, so yeah, that's just kind of like that. Yeah. And then Chi-Town said, "Oh, he's the Abe Lincoln of the 20th century." So I personally am not the biggest fan of Lincoln. I think he kind of exceeded his 40. I do think Lincoln and Lenin probably did think what they were doing is right, but that's the thing is what they did lead to suffering for a lot of people, but and it's important to remember that. Next we have Gotta Love Watching the Right Off Eat Each Other video by Tom13. That's a clip of Trump. From r/bad choices, good stories. Warren Trump told his mad view because that code is hoax and look at how SMR is doing. Now Trump says it's goes right and responsible. He's more just necessary every country. Yeah, you're going to try and attack each other on COVID. They're both part of the COVID dream, I would say. I don't really care for either of them. I never accused pedo drag queen, of course, it's another GOP grifter from the Daily Dot by Tom13. Yeah, a lot of pedophiles these days. This subreddit, of course, I'm more interested in pinning them on the right, but you got some on the left as well. Some drag queens I've seen. But it's the thing is, you got tons of bad faith actors in both parties. It's important to remember that, and probably in the third parties as well. That's why you gotta always remember, just go out. It's always just we should just stigmatize pedophilia. I feel like a lot of people on the left want to stigmatize pedophilia when it's people on the right, but then when it's people on the left, they always have some excuse. And that's always important. That's why I think it's always important. We live in a world where it's very much not who does things, but no, it doesn't matter very much what people do, but who does the things. That's what I would say. And let's see. Change my view. Anti-drag laws are a clear violation of the First Amendment and are authoritarian fascism by Maddie Clock. I would agree with that. I personally don't think the government should be regulating appearance in any shape or form. Like, if you want to not like stuff like dressing up like in drag or dressing up like a child or infant, I think that would be fine. Or dressing up naked, you shouldn't be. You should be. I definitely think you should stigmatize being naked in public, but I don't think it should be illegal. That's the thing. I'm very illegal but stigmatized. But that's my very thought of life. You should. Things should be legal, but they should be stigmatized, and that's important because that's very being libertarian. You have to. You don't have to necessarily respect other lifestyles, but you should tolerate other lifestyles and try and look the other way as long as the NAP is not being violated. So Ron DeSantis promises to boycott Bud Light before admitting he prefers LGBTQ plus friendly Guinness. He says that Bud Light lost the customer and then admitted he doesn't even drink it. The fascists themselves could give a fuck about the religious culture. It's purely a tool to divide working class from LGBTQNation.com by Chi-Town20. Yeah, it's all a grift, It's all just it's all this pro LGBTQ or pro MAGA stuff. It's all just a grift. Every company just wants to pander to ideology these days because they know ideology is political ideology mostly is kind of what's just in style these days. It's yeah. Historically it was pander to like sex or pander to coolness, but now it's pander to ideology, and I think we're just gonna see that even more and more as time goes on. You'll probably just, as our society continues to ideologically segregate, I think it's important to look at how how much we're going to be divided. Right now we have alternative news channels, but how far we'll go. We have alternative products. I think, and we might even have alternative grocery stores. It's all the alternative products. You'll have the MAGA grocery store and like the woke grocery store, and that's just how it's going to be. The MAGA grocery store, everything has a picture of Donald Trump on it, and the woke grocery store, everything has an LGBTQ flag on it, or like a picture of a drag queen or Jalen McClaney. That's probably what's going to happen. Texas Senate passes bill to end countywide voting on Election Day. NBC News from NBCnews.com by Flimsy Al 5563. And yeah, I personally think, voting is very important, but I personally think voting is kind of tyranny of the majority, so I guess, that's bad. They're just trying to restrict voting because, I think, they know the voting is just gonna kind of hurt them because, Texas is Republican controlled, and they typically don't like high votings because the more people usually the Democrats win. That's why the Democrats usually support that because that's how they justify their power. I personally don't think voting really counts. Really, just marking pieces of names down on pieces of paper or you're filling bubbles. I don't think that really counts. I think voting is just the way we justify authoritarianism because we filled in paper. We chose our authoritarians. That's that justifies them. That's kind of like what I was. We're going to talk about how I posted a link to a book by Murray Rothbard, Enemy of the State, later on today in the day. We'll talk about that later. But it's kind of like what he says, like, oh, you aren't the government. The government, you may vote for the government, but you aren't the government. I think unless you are serving in it, then you can maybe say you're the government because the government is simply who controls people, and even if you vote for them, you're still not, that doesn't justify their authoritarianism, I would say. Next, we have Florida Republicans pass bill to remove trans kids from parents' custody, even those living out of state from the independent. I think we talked about that. That was just a repost from a while ago, but I think reposts are okay. I think the thing with these laws is I think the government they could already justify taking away your kids for whatever reason they feel like, even before they wrote down this law. And now in Minnesota and Washington, it's probably going to be the other way. If they don't think you're treating your trans kids well enough, all the gender affirming care that they want, and they'll take them away. So, the thing is, the laws are really irrelevant. It's just words written down on paper. The government can already justify doing whatever it wants to. It doesn't really matter. This doesn't really matter. People say all this matters, but it doesn't. I don't think it really matters. It's just cultural war bullshit to so people can circle jerk on Reddit and Twitter about it, and that's pretty much it. Next we have Sums It Up by Ruin My Circle Jerk. Let's see what we have here. It's two fishermen at a river. The landlords, the workers are fishing, and then the landlords are fishing over for the fish bucket by the workers. That's pretty on the nose. I personally am not too big on landlords, but I guess if you enter into an agreement with someone, that's just how it is. I personally would kind of agree with that statement, but I wouldn't really justify any authoritarianism, so that's why I would try not to enter into any agreements with people whatsoever, because they always might try and find a way to screw you. That's people for you. That's part of my fundamental life philosophy. No one's can be completely trustworthy, and anyone can screw you at any second, so that's kind of important to remember. Next we have Real Life Meme, Woke Female Drone Opera Coming to DC from Breaking Points. I thought that was interesting. It seems to be sponsored by General Dynamics and the rest of the military industrial complex. Make drone operators look sympathetic, and of course, the drone operator has to be a female because IDPOL pandering. I'm surprised it's not transgender Native American female at this point. Make them look sympathetic as possible. Like, oh, look how marginalized I am while I operate my drone. That's kind of IDPOL for you, the woke for you, pander to the marginalized. As long as, yeah. And you see the military-industrial complex increasingly doing that these days. And, that's, what do we have next? Just realized this. The Biden campaign backed Hunter Biden 2020 intelligence letter was crafted by the same Beacon Global Strategies intel officers involved in the 2016 Hillary campaign effort declaring Bernie as a threat to national security from Li Fang on Twitter. And I posted that. And let's see. What did I say about that? I said, that's a good point. Never underestimate the lengths people will go to in order to manipulate narratives. And that's you definitely see that with groups like the Speaking Global Strategy Group. It's a bunch of intel officials who are working for the DNC and all but name, and they're trying to spin how you can't question their candidate, how everything that goes against their narrative is Russian disinformation, and how it's going to be illegal to question their narrative soon enough. We'll get to that later, but yeah, it's important to realize that that's important how they spin things, how they spin everything, and it's important how they try to manipulate narratives. And I think we live in an era where people have never been manipulated on the scale that we see like right now, and that's important to remember because social media. I don't think there has ever been as good a tool to manipulate people, and I think we're going to increasingly see that as time goes on, especially because mostly younger people use social media, not really older people. That's why we're going to see this kind of increasing as time goes on. Next we have, never forget that they killed John McAfee over taxes that they claim he owed. Taxation is extortion, and extortion sometimes ends in murder by Spike Cohen from Twitter. And I said, yeah, John McAfee didn't kill himself. Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. Gary Webb didn't kill himself. Who knows how many other suicides there have been. And that's important to remember, The government, if they really think you get in their way, they can just say, oh, you killed yourself. I guess you were feeling suicidal. Kill yourself. You didn't really kill yourself, of course. The government probably did it for you, but that's just how it is sometimes. And there's nothing you can do about it. It's not a fair world. So what do we have next? Oh, yeah. Next we have AOC calls on the government to ban Tucker Carlson and other Fox host Jen Psaki and nods along for end wokeness. On Twitter, that's kind of really concerning, and you don't want to make the media illegal. It's like soon. I think we're going to see free speech as a thing of the past. We'll have let's see. What was that? What did I write? Free speech is going to be a thing of the past in my lifetime. Those in power can define anything they want to be as hate speech or misinformation or incitement of violence, and that's more to remember. Soon there'll be no. You won't be able to question anything anymore. The government will say. I think soon criticizing the government's probably going to be illegal. And I feel like you increasingly see the U.S. becoming China. Soon they're going to implement a CBDC. Soon they're going to implement the social credit system, and then soon they're going to implement the criticizing us is not legal. The threat to national security. And, that's just kind of sad. I like really expressing myself, but you can't express yourself these days if it goes against the narrative, and that's important to remember. I mean, you can, but the people, they'll come after you for it. And, that's why, You have to stand up for yourself, even if all you get is hate. You just got to stand up for yourself, and that's what I try and do on the subreddit, on the internet, on social media in general, and on this podcast. Next is 60-year-old transgender man identifies as a 6-year-old girl by Ollie London on Twitter. I said to this, I'm a libertarian, As a libertarian, I think you should be able to do whatever you want as long as the app is not violated. However, I don't think anyone should be forced to view anything as normal if they don't want to, especially if it's kink fetish stuff like this. I think if you want to go out and dress like and act like a 6-year-old, even if you're 60, you should be able to do that. But that doesn't mean I should be able. I should accept. I should say. I should embrace you with open arms. That's what I kind of think. It feels like we're getting forced acceptance. I think I should tolerate you and look the other way, as long as you're not violating that. But that's what I say about naked people as well. I don't think you should be naked as well. But that's the thing. We're increasingly saying, oh, you need to accept everyone as long as they don't question what, like, the official DNC narrative or whatever. And that's what I think you're increasingly seeing. You're just, it's just, this is increasingly you're forced to see this as normal, and I don't think this is normal personally. I think you could consider this mental illness, but I think it's more of a fetish or kink thing. So that's important. That's what I feel about the issue, and I think I should be able to say that soon. I don't think you might be able to say that. That might be considered hate speech. And that's how it is. So hopefully we can still say that as we can currently. Next we have Anatomy of the State by Murray Rothbard from the Mises.org. I posted that. It's a book from Murray Rothbard. He talks about, and I really like how on page 28, what I really noted was, in the present, more secular age, more Rothbard writes this, in the present, more secular age, the divine right of the state has been supplemented by the invocation of a new god, science. State rule is now proclaimed as being ultra-scientific, as constituting planning by experts. But while reason is invoked more than in previous centuries, this is still not the true reason of the individual's exercise of free will. It is still collectivist and determinist, still implying holistic aggregates on the coercive manipulation of passive subjects by the rulers, page 20, from page 28. And that's why I said he knew follow science. Here's where we started doing it. Now the government uses science and experts as justification for their rules. Like, oh, if you don't agree with this, you're going against science. You're going against the experts. That's not a justification for the rule. You should be, if you can question something, that's science. But if you can't question something, that's religion. And increasingly, we're seeing science and, I would say, secular humanism become religions that you can't question. And it's important to remember that, because it's always important to question everything, I think. Question those you disagree with, question those you agree with, question everyone. Because, no one should be exempt from questioning. And I think increasingly everyone feels like they should. And that's important, because no one should be exempt from being questioned. Because no one deserves to just rule without without any criticism or opposition or questioning. Next, we have an interesting comparison of cultural regional gun violence numbers from Politico.com by Clorox with a 4 in it. I don't know. And it says gun violence is actually worse in red states. It's not even close. Of course, Politico is kind of going to be a little more left biased, so it's more to remember. The thing is that gun violence is kind of something that's inevitable. People won't get it. Well, they're just illegal. If the people want guns badly enough, they'll just find a way to get them anyway, and that's important to remember. Next, we have NAACP files lawsuit after Mississippi governor signs legislation expanding state control over Jackson's judicial system and policing, from CNN by Ninja Lover. I think, it's a bit of an overreach, I would say. I think the NAACP is kind of justified there. Let's see. Yeah, it's from CNN. Nothing to, I personally would agree more with the NAACP. I think sometimes they can be more of a grifting organization, kind of like a lot of more organizations on the left, but I agree with them here. I don't think the state government should have more control over the local governments. I'm very nullification at every level. I think every government down to, I think the state government should notify the federal government, the local government should notify the state governments, and the individuals should notify local governments, and all the other things above. It's just I'm very express yourself. The governments can already get you for whatever they want. So just don't violate the NAP, and then we're good. Just yeah. Next, we have Biden's Department of Justice indicts 4 Americans for their political views on Russia from antiwar.com. That's by me. I posted that. And I said, yeah. I saw a good tweet from Warren McIntyre. The goal is the criminalization of political opposition. And I would say, yeah, this is the African People's Socialist Party. I think they call themselves. And a lot of people on the left, they love minorities and socialism, but apparently when they say something that goes against the narrative, they might have been working for Russia, but probably everyone's got some ties to foreign involvement at this point. I personally don't. People probably think I work for Russia for free, I would say, but no, I don't really have anything. I don't trust Russia. I don't trust China. I don't trust the U.S. I don't trust any country. And that's kind of where my logic comes from. And I think, even if they were spreading propaganda, I would say everything's propaganda these days, so you can't really charge them on that, I would say. When people conspire for foreign government, it's legal to conspire for the U.S. government, and that really makes you think. The U.S. government, they apply these rules to all the other governments, but I'm sure they probably have propaganda all over Russia and China and all the other places, but you can't call them out on it. That's the world we live in. Rules for thee, not for me. Everyone's a hypocrite. Well, we're getting through what do we have next? Next we have Whitworth cancels Pride Club's queer church event a week after rejecting Turning Point USA event from thefire.org. I like Fire. From Skull Whisperer. Yeah, I think, as a private organization, they should... I'm personally a free speech guy, but I think Whitworth, are they private? If they're private, I think they should be able to. If they're public, I'm less confident they should be able to. You're after Whitworth University Student Government Protection Campus. Yeah, it's a private religious institution. Otherwise, required respecting conservative rights. But I'm glad they're signing up for free speech, apparently. That's what Fire does. So, hopefully... Yeah, I agree with their final paragraph. Whitworth must restore Pride Club's queer church and approve TPS's event to comply with its commitments to free expression. I agree with that, yeah. Next, we don't have an option to ignore the culture war. However we feel it's too important to ignore, we should offer our own unique perspective on it, particularly how much of it's an intentional abstraction, all making clear that wokeism is a government program. We oppose it from Dave Smith on Twitter, and I agree with that, I personally think, I think, it's kind of meant to divide people, the culture war, because the elites just want the proles fighting each other, and that's why I would say I'm kind of against it, so, I think, the thing is, it's just kind of divide people, kind of make people more into their, make people more into their traditional religious beliefs versus the progressive religious beliefs, and, that's kind of which is meant to be, I personally think the solution is legal but stigmatized. If someone does something else you don't like and they don't violate the NAP, you should just say, turn the other cheek and turn your head and say, just kind of ignore it, I don't think 60-year-olds should be identifying as 6-year-olds. I think that's probably a kink fetish thing, as I said, but I'm just going to turn my head and ignore that if he's not breaking the law. Federal aid to the states, historical calls of government growth and bureaucracy, from Cato.org, by Ruin My Circle Jerk. And I think, I would say, the federal aid to the states is definitely something that I think we should try and limit more so. Maybe some exceptions, like if a Category 5 hurricane hits, but yeah, aid to the states is generally not something that we should be justifying. It's just gonna get more inflation, print more money, and that's not gonna be good for us in the long run. Next, we have Cops Are the Far Right by Chi-Town 20, and I personally would disagree with that. Cops are kind of just kind of authoritarian in general. I don't consider them far right ways. This say Fort Worth PD are arresting. It's a tweet from Canada Spurned. Fort Worth PD are arresting, threatening, and brutalizing activists who showed up to defend a drag show day at Fort Worth Brewery and Pizza from far-right protesters who self-described Christian fascist Kelly Neidner's so-called Protect Texas Kids group. That's the thing. The police they do usually I don't know. They're usually just a bunch of authoritarian bullies. I would say the left and the right have tons of those. Left has Antifa running around, and the right has the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and all those guys. I'm just tired of this shit. Can't we just all get along? But I don't think that's coming anytime soon with social media. We should just all leave each other alone. That's what I think. Next, we have Elon Musk's dad says his son's whole career was funded by the Emerald Mine. He, like other liberals, attacked truth because it reveals a full behind the curtain of deception from Futurism.com by Chi-Town20. And I know I agree. I kind of agree. Elon was kind of born on third base, but that's life for you. It's fundamentally unfair. Some people are going to have more advantages than others, and that's just how it is. And then we have the repost of gun violence is actually worse in red states. We already covered that. Soviet urban planning versus capitalist urban planning by Chi-Town. Let's see. Because it's a tweet from Paul Oregon. Because the Soviet built vertically buying houses for all, leaving out for saying for space for studying public park sports fields and runs throughout the city, something that's simply inconceivable in dystopian realities of individual home ownership. I do think the Soviet plan was more compact, but I do think that means we're gonna have to be like all shoved together in apartment blocks. So we'll probably have less elbow room. So that's each of them has, I would say, benefits and drawbacks, and it's important to think about that. Yeah, I personally probably prefer the more elbow room that the U.S. provides compared to what the Soviets did. But each their own. If you want to live in an apartment with like 5 million other people, you should be able to. Next we have Apple allowing side loading, but only in Europe. Free market capitalism limits liberty and creates tyrannical societal conditions by Chi-Town. Of course it is. And see, I personally think if you want to region lock things, I think you should be able to, but I do think you should be able to circumvent that as well because I don't think VPN should be legal. I think VPNs are always something that should be legal. You should be able to circumvent region locks if you want to. I personally would say just don't do region locks, but that's just my opinion on the issue. Socialism is bad for thee by not for me by Chi-Town. That's we're almost done. So DeSantis seeks federal aid for Fort Lauderdale flood victims by NPR. Of course, people are always going to say, "Oh, I don't want federal aid," but then their home state gets it, and they say, "Oh, we need federal aid." I personally, maybe you could do state aid, but I don't know if federal aid would be justified in any instance. But we'll see, unless it's like a Category 5 hurricane, like really bad, like worse than like Sandy, Harvey, Katrina combined. But we'll see how that works. And we have another northern state legalizes recreational marijuana for start in government utopia, New Hampshire. Next up, PA from y.org. So it's going to become legal in Delaware Sunday. Without Governor Carney's signature. The governor sent a statement that the debate will go on for yeah, that's good. I live in PA. I've lived within walking distance of 2 cannabis dispensaries, so that's good. I guess I could get them if I want because I have pretty much a background for for the legal weed because I'm on the autism spectrum. So that's pretty much gives me medicinal, which just means I can use it for everything I want. But I don't really care for it, so I don't really have any thing to say if it. And it's also I think decriminalized in my county from 2021. So yeah, I think it is coming probably to PA soon as Clorox says here. So. Let's see if there's anything new that's been posted. No, it doesn't look like it. So we're going to wrap it up there, and I'll see you guys for the next episode.